with Caroline Rue. Caroline is a 2021 graduate of Hibbing High School and was the last in a long line of family to also attend HHS. Caroline participated in many activities, including hockey, cheerleading, Northern Lights, and student council. She often sang the national anthem at many different events and was the youngest person to ever perform during Dillon Days at just 10 years old. Caroline continues to write music and perform at different venues around the Twin Cities. She loved her time at Hibbing High School and feels genuinely grateful to have attended a school with such a rich history of excellence. Caroline, please rise for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Caroline, that was lovely. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see people in this auditorium on such a gorgeous holiday weekend, so thank you all for coming out tonight. I'd also like to welcome everyone who is watching maybe from home, or maybe they're sitting out on the pontoon boat. I'm not sure what the weather is like outside currently, but we're so very lucky to have a local live stream here tonight, which is so very different from when I attended high school in 1995. I graduated in 1995, and during my time here, I participated in theater, speech, quite a few different creative arts. My father was a class of '59 graduate from this high school. And back then, when you performed on stage, there was always someone with a giant video camera taping, and we were able to, at the end of the year, take home a giant VHS tape of our performances to watch. My name is Suzanne Ryan, and I attended high school again in the 90s. I left here in 1995 and went on to study fashion design and exhibit design at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, the University of Wisconsin Stout, and BSU out in Bemidji. I moved back in 2008 after working in retail management for various companies, and I opened my own business here that is celebrated 15 years last year, Moxie, which is a women's clothing store in downtown Hibbing. I am so excited to be here tonight with all of you, celebrating I don't have words for it sometimes. It's incredible that this theater and this high school even exists some days. I am both the most likely and least likely person to be on this stage tonight. My creativity was sparked at a young age when I wrote a very compelling work called Dog Sir Cat I could not write yet, but my father took out his old typewriter and transcribed my thoughts about a dog who was chasing a sir who was chasing a cat. Riveting. I made him portray Joseph to my Mary in a makeshift Christmas scenario with my baby doll and a box for a manger. In elementary school, I played the pivotal role of the narrator in Mrs. Skoy's kindergarten presentation of The Three Little Pigs. I directed my second grade class in a production of Snow White, and in fifth grade, a bunch of friends and I were obsessed with writing and performing plays. My siblings and I were constantly performing at home, and I was comfortable to a point in my little Jefferson Elementary School bubble, but I was very shy. I was quiet and constantly told to speak up. I hated talking to strangers, and I still do a little. And you would think that I would stay far, far away from any stage that would give me the shakes. At Hibbing High School, that changed. I was fortunate that my sophomore year, I had educators that were patient and kind and encouraging, and to have friends who enjoyed the same types of things that I did and encouraged me and helped me. I fell in love for the first time on this stage. I cemented friendships right back there in those dressing rooms. Friendships that I still have to this day. Every time I step out on any stage, I am terrified, but every time I leave, I'm exhilarated. I'm very fortunate to have performed on this stage both as a student and as a community member. I'm fortunate that my creativity and my love for performing continued long past being here. But I have to say that this has always been my favorite stage to be on. This gorgeous auditorium, this magical place. And to this day, I cannot believe that this is a public school. It was just the right place for me to dream and believe and have people dream and believe with me. Thank you all for coming tonight. Welcome to the 100th anniversary of this amazing school we call Castle in the Woods. Next up, we have Mayor Pete Hyduke. He is Hibbing High School class of 1975. He's a lifelong Hibbing resident who attended Hibbing schools, Hibbing VOTAC, Hibbing Community College, and Dunwoody Institute. He and his wife, Cindy, have been married for 45 years, raised 4 wonderful children, and now enjoy their 7 grandchildren. He worked 7 years for USS as a millwright before enrolling back into college. He was fortunate to be given an opportunity to start a career for the city of Hibbing in 1986. During his career with the city of Hibbing, he worked in 4 positions, including golf park maintenance supervisor, superintendent of public works, director of city services, and interim city administrator. He is currently in his first term as mayor, and everyone please give a warm welcome to Pete Hyduke.
Good evening. I hope everyone had a safe and wonderful 4th of July. Tonight I'd like to welcome everybody back to this wonderful auditorium for the opening day celebration of 100 years of Hibbing High School. I'm Mayor Pete Hyduke. My wife Cindy and I are honored to have been part of the 1975 graduating class. We're also proud that our 4 children also crossed the stage to receive their diplomas, as did my 8 siblings. The vibrancy and quality of life in a community is in direct correlation to the school system within. A quality school system plays a defining role in attracting people to a community. In Hibbing, we are so fortunate to have a great educational system, outstanding buildings, with Hibbing High School, of course, being the jewel for over a century. This beautiful building has been called many things: Castle in the Wilderness, Bellamy Award winner, school with the golden doorknobs. But to me, it's just simply magnificent. But a building is just brick and mortar, because it takes a great faculty to bring the building to life by teaching and mentoring all who walk through its doors. For 5 generations of families, this building has been the vessel that has allowed many fine teachers and administrators the opportunity to inspire the dreams of all who walk the hallowed halls of this school. As a past student, we were so fortunate at Hibbing High School to have had the opportunity to see the finest of educators who helped prepare us for life by teaching us the basic core subjects: math, English, science, and social studies, but also the electives, the extracurriculars, and the athletic activities. It was these electives, extracurriculars, and athletics that helped us as students express ourselves, pursue our passions, were academically and culturally essential for molding us as well-rounded individuals as we moved on in life. As I reflect back on some of the great moments of my time in this wonderful school, I personally had so many great teachers and coaches and fond memories and experiences during my time that to single out just one wouldn't be fair to those not mentioned. I'm sure most of you are aware that every night this week, the community of Hibbing will be celebrating all that Hibbing High School has had to offer for the students in the past and today. Tonight, we'll be celebrating 100 years of arts. Tonight, I was asked to kick off this week-long celebration by reading and sharing a proclamation with you. This proclamation will be presented to the Hibbing City Council on Wednesday night, when they officially proclaim Friday, July 12th, Hibbing High School Day. At this time, I'll read the proclamation. In recognition of the 100th anniversary celebration of Hibbing High School, whereas from the earliest days of the village of Hibbing, its citizens have prioritized the value of education and community. When the town was to be moved from its original location in North Hibbing for the purpose of mining the iron thereunder, community leaders advocated for the construction of one central school building in the town's new location. Whereas the school building was constructed between 1920 and 1923, and a dedication ceremony for the new Hibbing Technical Vocational High School took place on January 28, 1924. The community took great pride in the new grand school, the Castle in the Wilderness, which originally housed kindergarten through junior college. With construction costs of approximately $4 million, the building boasts a grand marble staircase leading to an exquisite library and an ornate auditorium. Whereas from its beginning, Hibbing High School has been a cornerstone of our community. Hibbing students, educators, and historic high school have remained our greatest pride. Hibbing High School has well represented our community in endeavors such as academics, athletics, arts, and civic engagement. Whereas for over a century, Hibbing High School has upheld a tradition of academic excellence. In the early days, Hibbing School educated children and adults from 43 ethnic groups, teaching everything from English to basic subjects to the trades to the American citizenship. Though today Hibbing High School continues to educate citizens prepared to make great contributions to society. Whereas in its 100-year history, some 27,000 students have graduated from Hibbing High School. Alumni have made vast, significant contributions to society at both local and the global scale. Their legacy at home and around the world will live on for the next century and beyond. Whereas the city wishes to sincerely congratulate the Hibbing schools on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the celebration of Hibbing High School. Now therefore let it be resolved, in recognition of the 100th anniversary celebration of Hibbing High School, I, Mayor Pete Hyden of the City of Hibbing, hereby declare July 12, 2024, Hibbing High School Day in the City of Hibbing, and I invite and encourage all citizens to join in the celebration of this most significant occasion. In closing, please everyone get comfortable, sit back, relax, and enjoy a night of 100 years of the arts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Hyduke. Now please welcome our very first alumni superintendent of Hibbing Schools and a member of the Hibbing High Class of 1988, Rick Aldrich, along with our school board members.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I want to make sure that you can see everybody. Well, good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you here. We'd like to welcome the start of the week of the 100-year celebration of the Hibbing High School. We would like to rededicate the building tonight, and we have a beautiful new plaque that we're going to install at the main entrance of the high school to commemorate this event. But prior to doing that, I think it's important that our committee in the last year that has been planning this event was really led by a former school board member, Kathy Nyberg. Kathy Nyberg passed away very recently, but she had a huge passion for our school, huge passion for this event, and I just want to take a second and recognize her for all of her work that she's done for the board, for our community, but also just for this event. She really led the charge, as I'm sure Director McLaughlin will share with you if you get a chance to talk to her this week. So Kathy, yeah. I just wanted to say, I never got to tell this story, so I always wanted to tell it. I graduated in 1988 here at the Hibbing High School, and as a freshman, I don't remember exactly if it was the first day or the second day, but I'm pretty sure it was within the first week of school. We would come in here into the auditorium, and my homeroom seat was somewhere over in this area by the door. And it had a view of the door, but it also had a view of the glass that you would break in case of a fire. And I remember sitting just in a row over there, and it was Mr. Erickson. I don't know if you remember Mr. Erickson as a teacher, but he was my homeroom teacher. And he turned around and he put his finger right in my nose and he said, if there's a fire, you don't break that glass. That's always stuck with me. I'm sure you've probably had the same experience with some of your homeroom teachers. And just I think the pride that we share for this building. You can see that even today. The students that we have at the Hibbing High School, they represent different walks of our community. And our school looks much different than it did probably when you went to school here. The outside looks the same. The inside, however, is modern, updated, technology, computers, iPads, Wi-Fi, routers. You would not believe what it takes to run routers in this building when walls are 2 feet thick. Takes your cost and multiplies it by about 10 right off the bat in a beautiful historic building. But our kids here today, even though a lot of them weren't born and raised in Hibbing, they have that same pride for our school. And you can see that. You can see how beautiful our students have left it again after a busy, busy year of over 1,000 students in this building. So I hope you recognize that. I hope this building looks like it did when you left, and I hope in another 100 years that someone is here rededicating the Hibbing High School. In this day and age when educational institutions are torn down for something shiny and something new, I'm very proud to be a part of a community that wants to keep this tradition and keep this historic building. So, thank you. I would be remiss, I'm very sorry, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you again, but I also would like to introduce my board members that I have here on the stage. Here at the end we have Director Marge Martin. Here we have Director Kim McLaughlin. She also led much of the planning this week, so thank you, Kim. We have Board Chair John Berklich. Our other school board members are Jeff Polcher, Mike Egan, and Sarah Gabarty, and I'm sure that you'll see them during this week. So, without further ado, I am going to, I believe I have the mock-up here. I'm sorry, I wish it was a little bit bigger. We'll set it up by the door as you leave. But here is our new plaque for the 100 years of the Hibbing High School. It says Hibbing High School, celebrating 100 years, 1924 to 2024. Again, thank you on behalf of the board. We hope you have a great week. We will see you for the other events. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Aldrich, and also school board members. Tonight we're celebrating the arts. After 4 years in the making, Hibbing High School was finally finished when this incredible auditorium was completed. At that time, the school housed grades K through 12 and 2 years of junior college with a capacity of about 2,000 students, but there were actually about 2,300 packed into the rooms of this building. My dad actually attended elementary, high school, and junior college all in the same building. And I remember when he was telling me about it when I was younger, I thought how intimidating this enormous place must have been to a kindergartner. 26 nationalities were represented in this group of students, and approximately 75% of them were foreign born. In the evenings, Americanization and naturalization classes were taught here to adults seeking American citizenship, and roughly 125 aliens were graduated with their citizenship diplomas every spring. The school was equipped with its own bank to help students learn thriftiness, banking, and money management. And in 1924, it held about $65,000 in student savings. Now, I know that my parents probably would have appreciated that program still being in place, as when my generation went off to college, we immediately were accosted with a million credit card offers that we didn't realize we actually had to pay back. The school also had its own print shop that produced all of the student publications, the office forms, booklets, student handbooks, and programs for many of the events here in this theater. Newspapers from across the country carried the news of the completion of our high school. From California to Florida, newspapers gave their impressions of this monumental achievement. One stating, "The theater gives a sense of a cathedral more than of a school. Broadway might well come to Hibbing and learn several lessons about decoration and comfort. It is the most extravagant example of Western prosperity." I remember in high school traveling with different bands or speech programs, theater, and when we would get to some of the quote-unquote newer schools in the metro area to complete, they touted how new they were, how updated. But when we went into their auditoriums, their classrooms to perform, they were gray boxes with a lot of acoustic tiles. And I remember thinking how grateful I was to have this space instead of the modern. On January 28th, 1924, the public was able to see it for themselves. A grand public opening was set for the whole week with speakers like J.M. McConnell, the state school superintendent, and Dr. L.D. Kaufman, president of the University of Minnesota. The first musical performance was from Professor Luigi Lombardi and the Range Orchestra, and Madame Lombardi and the Range Chorus, and from the Barton Organ Company, Mr. Bernard Cowham, a demonstrator employed by the organ company, was on hand to play the new $26,000 pipe organ for the excited crowd. That organ is still here today, and I encourage you to come back Wednesday at noon to hear it being played. While the evening performances were reserved for adults only, children from all of the local schools were bussed over in the week, and they were entertained with organ recitals and moving pictures. It was said in the Hibbing Daily Tribune that the children oohed and awed upon entering the theater. The first play to be produced and performed on this stage was done by the junior college players, and it was called The Amazons. It was a Victorian-era comedy about a couple who raised their daughters as boys to afford them more opportunities. It was billed as a fun and breezy comedy that turns the Victorian rules of womanhood on their head by showing three free-spirited girls who can do all that women and men can do. Rather progressive for 1924, don't you think? Right from the start, the arts have been an important and integral part of Hibbing High School, its students, its staff, and the community as a whole. Hibbing High School has supported and cultivated arts and education and extracurricular activities for the students, and tonight we celebrate the history of arts here at Hibbing High School. It's not hard to be inspired when you walk through the doors of HHS. The marble staircase is awe-inspiring. And as you move up that staircase, the wonder grows when you see the relief work on the walls and ceilings, and the paintings by David Erickson that line the entrance walks, and the incredible mural in the library, painted by David Workman in 1913. All of these have been recognized by the Smithsonian as national treasures. A little bit later, Mary Keyes is going to be talking about the 4 female figures looking down on us in this beautiful room that represent art, drama, literature, and music. Over the past 100 years, Hibbing High School has been the host of a myriad of plays, operas, dancers, singers, musical acts, and professional touring performances from all over the world. Tyrone Power, the famous movie actor of the 30s and 40s, took this stage twice with different Broadway touring companies. The Guy Lombardo Orchestra performed here, Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops, country singers Tammy Wynette and Charlie Pride filled this theater with their music. And in the early 60s, Liberace graced this stage twice, to the delight of many an Iron Ranger. This theater has also seen countless student productions, plays, choir concerts, band concerts, and orchestra concerts have echoed in these walls. Hibbing student actors have taken 11 trips to the state competition for one-act play, and they have won starred performances 8 of those times. Hibbing has also had award-winning visual artists who have had works shown in both galleries and museums around the world. Showcasing the artistic talents of the students has always been important. Arts and music nights have been a staple for the school for many years. And in the 60s and 70s, HHS even published a monthly magazine devoted solely to the artistic talents of the students. Student art, poetry, and writing were showcased in the Highlights Art magazine. This theater was equipped with state-of-the-art film equipment in 1924, and many motion pictures have been shown here, along with educational films like How to Make Cheese, which was one of the first films shown to the students in the auditorium. State-of-the-art film and television equipment in this school has inspired students from Hibbing High to become filmmakers, actors, producers, and other artists working in the film industry. The arts have always been an important part of life here at Hibbing High School, and how could they not be? It is certainly hard to not be inspired by just walking through these doors. And if it's your first time walking through these doors tonight, or your 100th, I think you maybe are still filled with that same awe as I am as you walk up those marble steps and gaze into this gorgeous space. Tonight we showcase and celebrate some of those incredibly talented alumni that have walked these halls. Up next, we will have Rhonda Willianen. She is a born and bred resident of Hibbing, Minnesota, and she has chosen to continue her adult life in this special part of the country because of its unique opportunities to foster her love of the outdoors, sustainability, and building community. She has a passion for sustainable living and is establishing a home in a location that provides opportunities for gardening, hunting, and gathering. Her professional journey began in healthcare as both a department head and a caseload worker, while she has managed budgets, teams of people, and caseloads of clients in her professional life. Her position of working one-on-one with high school students in the federally funded college readiness program, Upward Bound, has been the most rewarding part of her career journey to date. She has years of experience in working with people and takes great joy in helping students develop their skills to better their own circumstances. Rhonda is a strong believer in serving one's community, and she has a deep love for the Iron Range. She is currently on the board of directors for the Upper Midwest Film Office, as it combines both her love of the area and her love of storytelling. As the mining industry slows in the area, Rhonda wants to see other industries grow, and she believes that the film and television industry and this area of the country she loves makes a perfect fit. She has served on various local boards, steering committees, and visioning projects, ranging from community health organizations to youth-related and community projects. She's been a coach and continues to be an advocate and instructor in the Hibbing Aquatics program. Rhonda is proud to be on the HHS 100th Anniversary Committee. She believes bringing people together to celebrate each other and their shared history and experiences is an important part of life. Please welcome Rhonda Willianen.
That intro was longer than my speech is going to be. So. Yeah, I'm Rhonda Willianen, class of 1976. The first time I walked into this building, I was 10 years old. I was coming in to audition for a play. I'd never been in a play before, but we had recently moved into town from Kelly Lake, and my mom, with 5 girls, needed us to be busy doing something. So she told us to come here and audition for a play. The play was called Growing Pains. The musical was written by Hibbing High School alumnus Don Peterson. Growing Pains is a story of Hibbing, the people in the village, and how they both literally moved to this very location surrounding this glorious building. When I walked in the building, I was like, oh my God. I mean, you can imagine a 10-year-old at the front of those steps walking up, like, what is this? I was also in awe of the 4 flights of stairs that I had to climb to get to the audition. It was way up to the very top floor. There were so many of us children. Back in those days, there were so many of us running around. I mean, we had six elementary schools in the area at that time, full. But there were so many children that came to audition that Al Reller, Vern Wenberg, and Mr. Manley had us all line up and sing all at once. And then they walked by us, kind of stooped down, listening to everyone, and then picking out what children were going to be in the play. Excuse me. And after all my efforts, the flights of stairs and singing, I got part of a little girl carrying a block that made up one of the multiple structures that were on stage. And they represented the buildings of North Hibbing that were moved. The act was named The Children Moved the Town. It was a wonderful production. It had so many people from all walks of life in this community. It was all community members putting on this production, and I've been to Broadway, and I think we could rival a lot of the productions done here, could rival those in Broadway. There was music teacher Val Peterson, my neighbor Dr. Pashotti, Principal Bill Law, dancer Greg Rosati, and so many others who shared their talents for this production. Being here and telling the story, and as I was writing this, it just brought back so many of those great memories of the first time I was in this building, and then all the other ones that came after that. So here to sing songs from Growing Pains are Diana Giambetti, Amy Quavisto, and Megan Reynolds, and they're accompanied by the Crescendo Orchestra and Lene Ronchetti.
Hello. You'd think by now they'd realize not to give a first soprano a microphone. Too late, Dustin. Anyways, I'm Diana Giambetti, This is Amy, and this is Megan. And Lene is way back there tucked. You probably can't see Lene. And we're going to start out with a song called Us on a Greyhound Bus. If you feel, it's a soft shoe, so if you feel like going with your shoulders, it's okay. You'll feel it. Us on a Greyhound bus, sort of faint of heart, waiting as we start out to travel on pavement or gravel. We'll smile, stepping down that bus aisle, with the ticket clenched in a happy fist, looking for things we've always missed, checking out all the new places with all the new faces. That's us on a Greyhound bus. Every rubber wheel makes a person feel like she's floating. It's kind of like boating. We'll glide on a Greyhound bus ride. Nothing smoother in this entire land. Who in the world had ever planned us on a Greyhound bus? On a Greyhound bus. On a Greyhound bus. Oh yeah. On a Greyhound bus. Why not come with us and see the world on a Greyhound bus? You know, Amy, that bus took people all over the world. All over the country, excuse me, not maybe all over the world. Actually, yes, because the Greyhound bus has been in movies.
That's
And commercials, so it's been all over the world. I wasn't a mistake. Yeah,
Sure has.
Saved myself there, didn't I? And let's see here. We started out as just this. If you've ever been to the Greyhound Bus Museum, it was a rough ride, I bet, compared to how it started.
Right?
And so, where did they travel to?
Well,
they traveled
it went to Keewatin.
Keewatin.
Yep.
Oh, yes,
And then
yep.
Ashwaubenon.
Yep. Yep.
What about Coleraine?
I bet it went
No,
to-
all the way to
yeah.
Grand Rapids.
That was probably an all-day trip.
And then the other direction.
Yeah.
So we went to Chisholm, right?
Yeah. Is that
Even
farther?
beyond, it went all the way up to Ely.
Yeah, Ely. Oh,
Then
man,
two
Ely, they would have
harbors.
had to bring lunch and supper on that. Yeah.
Such a long journey.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, that would have been a heck of a ride.
Well, eventually it went even further.
Do you think
Like-
they went to Duluth?
I think it did.
I didn't think they did. Then they branched out down to, like Little Falls.
Oh yeah.
And,
I heard they went all the way to Chicago at one point.
I bet they did, yeah. I
Oh.
think so. And the neat thing is that it kind of started here in Hibbing.
Did I hear somebody say Hibbing?
Yeah, I think I did. Yes.
Is that where I am? I swear to God, I just got off a bus and I have no idea. I've been on the bus for ages. Hi, I'm Tony Fraboni. Nice to meet you. I'm here all the way from Jersey. I'm here to see my mom.
Nice to meet you. I'm Amy Coivisto.
Amy, so nice to meet you.
meet you too.
I came to see this town where there ain't nothing here. It's just a bunch of foundations and stuff.
Oh, well, it moved. The town moved.
What do you mean, it moved?
Well, we moved the town, the logs,
Oh,
the
you-
horses. And
Like you personally?
Well, not me personally, but a team of people back in the day.
That's a strong gal right there. Well, why don't you tell me about
Well,
it?
yeah, I would love to. All right. Here's how to move a town. You shimmy it up and whittle it down. Put it on jacks or put it on tracks. Put it in rows or put it in stacks. Once you complete this, you move it rather slowly to start with. After all, it's harder to part with when you have your roots beneath you. Next job, you couple the claim, you buckle the belt and keep it on plane and tie up the knot. And once on the road, hauling a town is rather a load. Go tell the town folk from north to south, we're going time for community talk. One long community walk, hauling a town like Hibbing, block by block.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You just said words I don't know.
No, I know it's so complicated, but you'll see.
I mean, how did you actually manage to move the buildings from one place to another?
Oh, well, if you listen, I'll tell you.
Seems doubtful.
First house we're due to dispatch has 21 rooms
21?
and chickens to match.
And keep them in the house?
Yellow frame front and iron or rear, a raspberry bush, but we'll leave it
That's a
here.
good plan.
Good oh, gently, for all the kids are down in the cellar.
You
Call
moved the
their
house
mom
with the
and
kids in the
quietly tell her all of her brood are starting to
Joyce,
bellow
they call
now.
DSS for
Take the little red school with reading and writing and arithmetic too.
You're gonna need it.
You'll notice the corner is lower than most. That's the place where Sven had his post.
Kind of the name is Sven.
Run, tell the school mark from north to south. We're going, wait. Now remember the chalk.
Don't forget that.
Long community walk, moving a town like Hibbing, block by block.
All right, so what you're telling me is you kept the kids in the houses when you moved them?
Yeah, well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You guys do things pretty different up here.
I know, but everybody's safe. We made it.
Is that all you got, some houses, or you moved some other stuff
No,
too?
we got some other stuff too. All right, you listen here. Next, take the group of saloons, the entire zoo, and all the baboons.
You
That
had
steeple
zoo?
and church, plus every last tent where people might perch without paying rent.
I know all about the wires.
Ease up that graveyard. I'm sorry to say it's not too appealing. Moving a town from basement to ceiling means every last
You
soul
moved the
among
bodies?
us now. Take the old district court. Be thankful for this. We don't have a fort. We do have a mill and plenty of stores. Leave out that house you sat in outdoors. Go tell the town folk from
the old
north
house, I got it
to
now.
south. We're going time for community
Wow.
talk. One long community walk. Moving a town like Hibbing, block by block.
I tell you what, I'm pretty impressed. You are quite a people.
We are,
I don't
yes.
know if we can take it in Jersey, it's too hot there.
Oh,
You make them unique in northern Minnesota.
we do.
Well, I say maybe I'll stick around a while with Mom.
All right, why don't you join me for this last part?
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Last, take the final square feet, but leave the camp post and wooden block street. You never can tell when they might fill in the pit. Then moving it back, the whole town will fit. Go tell the town folk from north to south. We're going time for community walk. Time long community walk. Moving a town like Hibbing, block by block. You got it.
It is such a joy to hear music on the stage. It's really what it was meant for. Thank you so much for that performance. Up next, we have Mary Paulsich Keys. She is a familiar person to Northern Minnesota residents for her Years of Yore weekly page about the aspects of Iron Range history, which is published in the Mesaba Tribune and affiliated papers. Mary holds leadership roles in the Hibbing Historical Society and represents that society on the St. Louis County Historical Society Board of Governors. After Mary graduated from Hibbing High School in 1975, she attended the College of St. Catherine in St. Paul, Minnesota, earning degrees in English, speech, theater, and secondary education. She taught for 18 years at Hill Murray High School in St. Paul, where she taught mostly 12th grade literature, writing, and media classes, and developed the English Advanced Placement course. Then, for 4 years, she taught classes about Minnesota history and research at the Minnesota Historical Society's History Center in downtown St. Paul. She and her husband, Joe, returned to her hometown in 2003, where they owned and operated Howard Street Booksellers until 2015. I will tell you that when I moved back in 2008, I was so excited that we had a local bookstore, and it was one of my favorite things to do during the holidays. Although they retired from running the brick and mortar storefront, they continue to order books for individuals and organizations. They also give tours of tours of historic Hibbing, Bob Dylan's Hibbing, and this magnificent high school. Mary Paulsich Keys.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful to see all these people here on a beautiful holiday weekend, and we're going to have a wonderful week, so please come back. Because today, especially, we are celebrating the arts, I would like to start by saying that the designers and builders of this school, this temple of education, placed within it a temple to the arts. And there they are. There she is, the muse of theater, and there she is, the muse of music. Across the way is the muse of literature, and up front is the muse of the visual arts. So when you come in here, you are supposed to be inspired by the arts. How important the arts are, that they were an integral part of education. The muses, by the way, are painted right on the wall, and they were designed and painted by a man by the name of Carl Halldorf Parson. Let them inspire us all. I was born and raised in Hibbing. My father, Ed Paulsich, was born and raised in Chisholm, and my mother, Julia Brandt Paulsich, was born in Keewatin. My parents met each other in Duluth in 1936, where they were both attending Teachers College, what would become University of Minnesota Duluth, UMD. And they both became outstanding teachers. My father taught here when the junior college was in the West Wing, biology, anatomy, zoology, until 1968, when I helped him pack up his lab and moved to the new campus on the east side of town. And he taught there till he retired in 1983. My mother taught at Assumption Hall, right across the street, for 13 years. My parents often spoke about the fine teachers they had when they were growing up in Chisholm and Keewatin. And so it is from my parents that I learned a lot about the marvelous Iron Range schools. The schools that did it all. And I am also a product of the Iron Range schools. Assumption Hall, and then here at the high school for grades 7 through 12. And I would like to see a show of hands of how many people sitting in the audience tonight are also products of Iron Range schools. Look around. You know, do we realize how lucky we were to have been in these schools? And not only us, but our parents and grandparents who were helped on their paths in life by these marvelous Iron Range schools. Schools on the Iron Range got started after enough men, lumberjacks, miners, store owners, blacksmiths, began to bring their sweethearts and wives and children into this land. For instance, Hibbing's first school teacher, Susan Murphy, was hired in 1894 up in North Hibbing. Like other range schools, Hibbing's first school was located upstairs of a general store. And Miss Murphy was tasked with beginning a school where pupils ranged in age from 3 to 13. The 3-year-old was there because he insisted on going with his older brother. And my mother knew a similar story in Keewatin a few years after this, and we agreed that those poor mothers had all those kids, and if one more of them wanted to go to school, let them, get them out of the house. As the range population grew, because there was work here for so many men in the mines, the towns could support churches and stores, and more women became members of this community, and soon there were lots of children. So towns needed to build real schools, not just rooms above a store. The teachers in these range schools were gifted and demanding. They knew that in their classrooms were sitting the children of 43 different ethnic groups. At home, those children might be speaking Slovenian, like my parents did, or Croatian, Serbian, Italian, Yiddish, Montenegrin, Polish, Ukrainian, or one of a dozen other languages. But in the classroom, they needed to learn English, to read, and to write. Those children learned poetry. They recited Shakespeare. They drew maps and were shown great works of art. Look around this building and you will see all kinds of artwork that the schools brought in so that children and adults could look and be inspired by beautiful art. They learned songs and were in choirs. Concerts brought the immigrant adults into the schools to see their sons and daughters performing shoulder to shoulder with children of all different nationalities. Mike Koziak, a product of the Chisholm schools, a graduate from the Chisholm class of 1942 who became a medical doctor, wrote in his memoir about his education. He recalled music appreciation, which was a common and regular program in the schools across the Iron Range. He wrote, "Music was provided by recordings which were played on a Victrola which was wheeled from room to room by the janitor under the close supervision of the music consultant. Not only were we expected to recognize the melody, but we also had to memorize the name of the composer and the country of the composer's birth." And Mike goes on to say, "I am sure that for the vast majority of us, this was our first exposure to classical music." My mother, over in Keewatin, in 9th grade, won her school's music memory contest by correctly identifying the composers and their piece of music in a contest at school at the end of the school year 1931. And she received a pin for her accomplishment, and I am wearing that pin today. Iron Range schools taught academics, and they were proud of how well they taught those. But they also would soon have nurses, doctors, and dentists on staff. Medical doctor Archibald Graham, you might remember the name, recognize the name, Moonlight Graham, came to Chisholm in 1909. He originally came to work for the Chisholm Hospital, but in 1917, his friend, Superintendent of Schools for Chisholm, J.P. Vaughn, convinced Doc Graham to become the school physician. He was still allowed to see adult patients either in their homes or in his school office. And he was often called out at night for a medical emergency or a baby being born, but in the morning, he was available for the health care of Chisholm's children. Doc Graham regularly oversaw hearing exams and eye exams for all the children. He ordered cases of eyeglasses with varying strengths of lenses, and if a child's eyesight was in need, Doc Graham would find the correct glasses for the child. You know, if a child struggles to see clearly, how well can that child learn to read or follow what a teacher is demonstrating? My father never forgot that he received his first pair of glasses from Doc Graham. If not for Doc Graham, my dad may not have become the excellent student that he was, and I might not be here speaking to you tonight. Thank you, Chisholm Schools. My dad's parents, like so many other parents on the range, probably never thought about taking their 7 children to an eye doctor for an exam, even if they could have afforded it. But the school provided that exam. Dr. William Jordan was a Chisholm dentist who, along with his private practice, also worked for the Chisholm Schools. And these two men, Dr. Jordan and Dr. Graham, established a program, what would come to be called in later years preventative care, whereby all the children were issued a toothbrush. And every day, the children in the Chisholm Schools would put toothpaste on their toothbrush and line up at in the hallways at sinks. And there, they would learn to brush their teeth correctly. They were taught the correct way to brush. There was even a chant that they were taught to go along with it. Could this routine, learned in his childhood years in the Chisholm Schools, be the reason my dad never had a cavity and never had a tooth pulled, and he lived to be 87? Those children might not have known it, but they were being prepared for a different sort of life than their parents. The mine owners quickly realized that men would move on to places with good schools if there weren't schools here. And communities knew that the next generation of workers needed to be educated, able to read and write, able to handle tools and know the language so they could follow directions, able to build and repair the new types of vehicles and machines that were rapidly changing the way things were done in the 20th century. So schools incorporated industrial arts classrooms. My mother's 5 brothers in Keewatin regularly brought home well-built tables of various sizes and uses, as well as hutches and shelving, and these were made out of pine or birch or even mahogany. The town of Hibbing, the original town, 2 miles from where we are today, was a busy, beautiful town of 18,000 people by the time the First World War began in 1914. A town with beautiful churches, a Carnegie Library, so much electric lighting on the main street that it was called the Great White Way. But it would become the town that moved when the mining company wanted to get at that rich iron ore in the ground. Over 280 buildings were moved. And this move is considered one of the great engineering feats of the 20th century. As part of that move, a new school would be built. And when the new Hibbing High School was built in South Hibbing in the early 1920s, the Industrial Arts Department included a large wing and on the ground floor of this new building. Everything from carpentry to welding to machine shopping was taught there. Students in the 1930s even built a couple of single-seat airplanes. Now, those industrial arts classrooms were for the boys, many of whom would go to work in the mines, some even having to leave the school at age 16 because their wages were needed at home. The girls would often come to school with basic homemaking skills like sewing and cooking that they had learned from their mothers. But in the home economics classrooms here, they would learn how to do much more advanced sewing, often on sewing machines that their mothers might not yet be able to afford. Fancy cakes and cookies, perfect for entertaining, were also taught in the cooking classes. And of course, both boys and girls had classes in science, mathematics, and literature. There were orchestras and bands and choirs, and there were swimming and physical education classes. Thanks to the determination of a brilliant Hibbing mayor, Victor Power, the mining companies were eventually required to pay taxes that benefited all the Iron Range communities. Victor Power fought the mining companies to see to it that they were taxed and that the money stayed here in the communities where the ground was being dug up and dug up on the backs of poor miners. That money, that tax money, began to be poured into civic improvements like paved streets, sewer systems, water systems, and our public schools. So, by 1930, most of the Iron Range schools had indoor pools, and students were required to take swimming classes as part of their physical education requirement. And because of the pools, there were showers. So if a child's home out in a mining location or on a small farm didn't yet have running water for regular baths and showers, at school, they could take a shower. And then there were the junior colleges, conveniently located all across the Iron Range, available for a student who was thinking about a life beyond a grade 12 education. Perhaps they were thinking about being a doctor, or a dentist, or a teacher, or a librarian, or a nurse. For poor families to have those first 2 years of college nearby, so a student could live at home or with a relative in a nearby town, those junior colleges were great stepping stones into higher education. And many a father, sweating in those stinking underground mines, or a mother scrubbing laundry by hand, saw the chance for their children to have a little bit more than they had had. And the marvelous schools could make that happen. Now, those parents probably were teenagers or very young adults when they had first arrived in America, and most of them did not speak English. In fact, historians tell us that most European immigrants who arrived in the great waves of immigration at the end of the 19th century and the first couple of decades of the 20th century had perhaps only the equivalent of a 5th grade education, if that. Some could barely read or write their native language. But early in the 20th century, the American government made a strong commitment to see to it that immigrants learned about America and became citizens of America. Teachers for Iron Range schools were recruited from major universities and well paid to get them up here. If you look back at older yearbooks where the colleges of the teaching staff are listed, you will find an amazing roster of major American universities and colleges from across this country that those teachers had graduated from. So, during the day, the children came to the schools, and then, in the late afternoon and evening, the adults came. These classes for adults, known as citizenship classes or Americanization classes or evening school or night school, these varied somewhat from town to town, but there were certain goals that they all aimed at. These formal classes were usually taught by the teachers who had taught the children during the day. There would be a 4 o'clock session for those adults who work nights, or those mothers who could more easily get away late in the afternoon rather than late at night. And there were evening classes for those aspiring citizens who work during the day. Imagine, after a hard day of working in the mines, or tending a household, or scrubbing floors in a boarding house. And remember, no wash machines, no dryers, no dishwashers, no vacuum cleaners, no disposable diapers. And then going to school, sitting at a desk, learning a new language and history and civics. An illiterate student presented a special problem, as they could not make use of their ability to read in their native language, to now read in a new language. The written symbols of letters had absolutely no meaning to them. Some classes were taught in a home, in a neighborhood, or in a home out in a mining location. The University of Minnesota developed a program called the Americanization Training Course. And teachers who graduated from that program were specifically trained to go into big city neighborhoods or small towns, and in particular to reach women, to encourage them to gain the knowledge that they would need to become Americans. The men, it was recognized by the school districts and the government, had contacts in the working world to encourage them. The mines, for example, paid men a little bit more if they could speak English and if they became a citizen. The women needed to learn about their new country too, in a way that if they just stayed at home taking care of their family, they might never learn. In 1929, here in Hibbing, the number of students enrolled in these courses was 843. The night school classes were 2 sessions of 12 weeks each. It took students 2 to 4 years to complete the course. English classes were beginners and then advanced, and each year the number of the advanced English classes increased. They were learning and they were sticking with it. There was also the Federal Citizenship Textbook, better known to the adults in the citizenship class as the I Open the Door book. It became the standard text for the class. The procedures followed in that book were credited to Francois Goyen and M.D. Berlitz. Does that name ring a bell with you at all? Berlitz, for learning world languages. Their book stressed to teachers that the only language to be used in the classroom was English. No translation, rather a direct association of objects with the English word. So, in the beginner's class, the teacher would write a phrase on the board, I open the door. And then the teacher would repeat that phrase and say it out loud a few times, and then go and demonstrate the activity. And the students would then repeat the phrase and take turns demonstrating the activity. And then they would practice writing the phrase. There were other pictures of people opening doors, but we like Judy Garland doing it. These adult classes all stressed becoming literate in English and learning about American history and the government process and the American way of life. This was all aimed at passing that citizenship test. World War I created a fear of foreign influence throughout the United States, and therefore it was seen as more important than ever to Americanize those who had come from other countries. The Oliver Iron Mining Company put up posters encouraging workers to become citizens, and the company policy stressed that a citizen had a better chance for advancement and pay raises than a non-citizen. From World War I on until the late 1930s, night schools became a vital part of school systems across the Iron Range. After September 1922, women were required to get their own citizenship papers. Previously, they sometimes could get a citizenship paper if their husband had become a citizen. But that changed because the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. So women needed to be able to read English and be aware of American government functions. I want to mention here also that prior to that 19th Amendment, there were some school districts, including Hibbing, where women could vote in a school board election. They couldn't run for the school board. They couldn't be on the school board, but they could at least vote. Adults were pressured from all sides to become citizens. Children in school were taught how important it was to be a good citizen, and they in turn encouraged their parents to become real Americans. The reluctant adult might even be visited at home by school officials who felt it was their duty to bring the language and culture to all ages. The citizenship classes were adult-oriented. How to live in America was emphasized. The lessons were simple and developed the vocabulary that adults would need. One lesson, for instance, was, I count my money. And you would learn the denominations and how much that money was worth. The American flag was another lesson, which explained the symbolism of the flag's design. These were also topics which could easily show up on the citizenship test. Another class topic concerned a little girl getting sick and needing to be quarantined. Then the parent needs to write a note to the teacher explaining why that child is missing class. Good food and food that could be grown in our area was another common topic. Intermediate classes included more complex topics, how to apply for a job, and more advanced readings about American history and government. Conversation periods were often part of the class where students would practice their new language skills. They would sit in small groups and describe to one another an object that they had brought from home, or explain about an upcoming holiday. Up in Ely, Clara Handberg was the Americanization lady. Her parents had immigrated from Norway, and Clara was born in Ely in 1892. She graduated from Ely High School in 1912 and went to Duluth Teachers College. And after graduating, she taught in Deer River, Embarrass, Virginia, and Tower Sudan, then returned to Ely to care for her parents and begin teaching in the Ely schools. But in 1923, she exclusively began to teach the citizenship classes. Besides the formal classroom program, she always visited people at home. Her niece recalls walking with Clara to far-flung mining locations or various neighborhoods around Ely to help those who were struggling or couldn't get to evening classes. An article in the Duluth newspaper recounts that 3/4 or more of the students in Clara's classes had perfect attendance. One woman, throughout a very miserable winter, had walked across frozen Shagawa Lake in order to attend class and never missed an evening. In 1927, the Chisholm schools hired a young librarian from Menominee, Wisconsin. Silva Hunt, later Mrs. C.A. Nikoloff, was recruited by Superintendent Vaughn. By that time, in 1927, the citizenship program in Chisholm had expanded a great deal. Silva said that coming to Chisholm from Menominee was like going on an international trip. She was soon asked to teach the citizenship classes, and she later recalled it was a policy at that time to tell those beautiful people to forget their past and not refer to their customs. Instead, to be American and live the American way. But that was devastating to this young Silva. And she convinced the administration to make a change. She said, "I often told my classes that the only reason I was up front was that I knew a few more words in English than they did, but that they had a richness of living and life, and I wanted to learn from them." And learn she did. She learned from those beautiful people about the best of their cultures. Those people of such varied backgrounds and interests and needs, all of them striving to make this new land their new home. She encouraged them to share with the class songs from their culture, foods, words for holidays in their native countries. If I could get a Finn to eat an Italian macaroni and describe it with gusto, I felt success, Silva said years later. And that description might unlock the secret that made life on the Iron Range unique. Working together, sharing favorite foods, celebrating America while still preserving individuality and culture from other nations. And those marvelous schools and marvelous teachers did just that. As the schools on the Iron Range became more established and built larger buildings, a fine auditorium was almost always a part of those schools. Besides the school's students making use of the auditorium for concerts and plays, the citizenship classes also often put on pageants or plays, especially as a session was coming to an end. These pageants and plays were open to the public and usually contained stories from American history, about the founding of the country, or the president's stories. And there were usually patriotic songs included. And sometimes those plays were written by teachers. Silva wrote many, but sometimes the students wrote the plays, perhaps including in it a story about their journey to America or a funny incident that happened in their neighborhood. The whole community was invited to these pageants, and handouts containing the words to the songs were given out. This was another way to teach American traditions to immigrants, not just the ones who were in the classes. And so they became citizens. At the entrance to Hibbing High School are 6 original murals painted by the renowned muralist David Erskine. The murals tell the story on the east wall of America, and on the west wall, the story of Minnesota. And one of those murals depicts a man raising his hand to take his oath of allegiance to his new country, America. I know something about citizenship classes, you see, because I am the granddaughter of 4 immigrants. My mother graduated from Robert L. Downing High School in Keewatin, attained her elementary teaching degree from Teachers College, taught in country schools in Itasca and Aiken County before returning to her hometown of Keewatin, where she taught 5th grade during the day and citizenship classes at night. And there, she taught her own mother. My mother helped her mother to become an American citizen. It was a great honor to graduate, to complete the test, to become a citizen. Now you could walk into a polling place at the next election. You had a say in your country. Your children saw you go to school, learn to read and write, learn to be an American. What an achievement. And those marvelous schools held out the hand that said, open the door, come in, you can do it. Those schools educated children and adults. Those schools checked children's eyes and ears and teeth. Those schools showed everyone examples of beautiful things in life, visual art, music, literature. Those schools didn't care where you were born or if you were poor. You are here now. Open the door. Come in. Those schools, this school, the schools that did it all. Thank you. There are a few people that I would like to thank tonight. Kim Catonius McLaughlin and the organizing committee for inviting me to speak here. And I also want to thank the teachers to whom I owe so much, starting with my first teachers, my parents. And then the English teachers and speech coaches and theater directors from whom I learned more than I can say. Nancy Erickson, Pat Campbell, George Peterson, Dan Bergen, Les Schimmelfinnig, Albert Reller, Steve Koskovich, and Donna Milner. I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my IT guy, my husband, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's incredible to think of all the history that lies right here and all the things that have happened over the past 100 years. I'd like for you to welcome next Gary Koizisto and Julie Takinen, Director of the Crescendo Orchestra.
Okay.
I'm the fourth grader here.
I'm going to invite you all to stand up and stretch
A little
because
stretch.
I think we need that.
Yeah.
We have a little rule in the performing arts, and that is we don't keep people sitting more than an hour. And if we do, we give them an intermission. So I think we're past an hour here, so let's stretch while we talk, and we'll just make it nice and casual. So I think she introduced us, but I couldn't hear. Julie Tuckinen, and this is Gary.
Akusisto.
Akusisto, okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about the why there's crescendo orchestra and what the big and beautiful orchestra was that the Hibbing High School had. And so I'll talk a little bit about that first, and then we'll get into why Gary's here. But yes, please do. They can stand.
While they're standing.
So in 1981, the Hibbing High School had to make a difficult decision about budget cuts, and the orchestra was cut from the school at that point. But before that, there was a big, beautiful symphony orchestra here with a whole row of basses. I think that Mary had a picture of the orchestra, so I hope you noticed how huge it was with the basses, the cellos, and all that instrument inventory was owned by the school here. And I got the chance to go down to the Minnesota Orchestra and visit with a fellow that actually got to see those instruments and the bows and the really high quality. They were beautiful old Italian basses, some of the best in the state, probably the country. So we can be very proud of our history and heritage of orchestra here in Hibbing, and we're working on rebuilding that because after 1981, we went about 25 years without orchestra. Then in 2005, we formed a 501c3 nonprofit. Aside the school district, we have a partnership with the school district and with community ed. And so with their help, we've been building back the orchestra. Now we have about over 100 members in the orchestra. Tonight we're gonna play with just about a fraction of those, like a fifth of those. But we do encourage anybody to get involved in the orchestra. It's very similar to how Hibbing started with K through college. And we do that in the orchestra. We have young players all the way through retired. So we're going to get into that. And then the other thing I'd like to tell you that we have a downtown location, and there's a music store. So this is brand new this year. So if you know anybody that's going into 5th grade and needs to buy a band instrument, we have those too. Band, string instruments, all of the instruments, and we offer the services of repair, strings, cork grease, all of the things right here in Hibbing. And it all benefits the orchestra. So it's a fundraiser. So please do support the new music store in Hibbing. And our location is there too, so you can stop by and see a lot of information about how to get involved. If you're interested, you can start also by checking Community Ed, because we, like I said, have a partnership with them. But, like the last two leaves on a
before
tree.
you start,
Okay, this is gonna be
you
good.
said retiree. Well, she pointed at me.
I'm not making any judgments.
Judgments.
Okay, so Gary himself described the last two leaves on the tree, because we have one more member in the orchestra that were they were in the high school, no, they were in the Hibbing orchestra as elementary students. I'm not going to tell you what year that was. We'll get into that though. So what grade and school did you start string instrument lessons?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. I started out at Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Which of course we know is no longer, but in Jefferson in 67 of all years. In 4th grade, Mr. Bear came to our class, if any of you remember Mr. Bear, and advertised this idea of coming and joining the elementary school orchestra. So I took advantage of that. A couple other folks in my class did that. And I decided to play the cello.
And why did you decide to play the cello?
Because I knew you didn't have to march. And I had a love for classical, even at that age, loved classical music.
Oh, but there's more, because violinists often have to stand and
Yes.
play, but cellists,
Get to sit.
okay.
And you have a nice end pin to poke somebody if you have to.
And I had another student tell me that the reason he chose cello is because it rhymes with jello.
Yeah.
So those are the good reasons to choose a string instrument. Let's see, so when you were in elementary school, what schools did you play concerts at?
You know, I thought that was very exciting. Yeah, from Jefferson, we never got to go to other elementary schools in Hibbing, but to do concerts, and we did this with the high school students, and so it was one orchestra. Went out, I remember going to Cobb Cook, and then we went to Washington one time, and Greenhaven. Those were the ones I got to go to, and talking to some other folks, other people went to more of the schools. But that at the time for a 10-year-old was very exciting.
And did you play just the elementary students together, or did you get to do something with the high school?
No, it was the high schoolers. As a matter of fact, we would practice with the high school orchestra as it got closer to the concert. So we'd come over here to the high school, and I thought it was the orchestra room, but I think it was the band room, now that I've gotten older. But we would come there after school and practice with the full orchestra, and then go deliver a concert at one of the elementary schools for the students and the faculty.
And just an aside, that's still a model that we use today. We have elementary students playing alongside high schoolers and alongside adult community members, because that learning by osmosis, you just can't beat it. How did you get your instrument? Did you have to go buy a cello?
You know, and that's a very good point. You go to other school systems. So I went to a couple of other different schools around the state. You have to lease, you had to rent your instrument. Here at Hibbing, you had a cello provided for you. I don't know about violins, but I didn't care about them. But you got a cello, and it was a nice one. It was a new one.
Wow.
So it was quite, somebody spent some money. It was the school district.
And
But,
I'll say that's another thing that we try to carry on. We have instruments that we rent to the students that we own in the program that are just $15 a month. So that's really, really low entry point. We also provide them for free to scholarship students. So we try to still carry on that tradition at the Hibbing schools. Did you have lessons during the day, or what time of the day? How did you do lessons?
Yes, I did. I remember that Mr. Bear would come at 10 o'clock on, I think it was a Thursday, but I could be corrected. But at 10 o'clock you'd have a half-hour lesson. And you'd get to leave the classroom, go on and have your lesson, and go through what you were supposed to have practiced during the week. Of course, I always practiced.
Of course. Like all of our students do.
And then he would correct you and go on with the next lesson, or the next techniques and objectives.
That's great. So Gary, what has orchestra meant to you in your life?
Well, actually, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's funny how you run into these activities in life that make you think. And I got a chance in '67 to start learning cello, becoming able to appreciate classic music, it was a gift that Hibbing Public Schools gave me as a student. And, okay, I'll say it, 57 years later, I've been able to come back to Hibbing, and I hope I'm delivering just a small bit of value back to all of our folks in the audience as far as being part of our larger orchestra.
And he is, very much so. Let's
Thank
give
you.
a round for Gary.
Thank you. I enjoyed the music.
Thank you, Gary and Julie. And now please help me give a very, very warm welcome to the Crescendo Orchestra.
that was called Into the Sky. And our next selection, I chose because I thought it would be nice to have a Hibbing graduate play a solo for Hibbing graduates. So Sam Hardy, come on up. And Sam, what year did you graduate?
2027.
Well, he hasn't graduated yet, okay. You're a time traveler, all right, excellent, excellent. So yeah, I thought it'd be kind of nice to have maybe a current Hibbing High School graduate, or student play for the graduates. So Sam is going to play Celtica with us.
2,000 years of teaching here was kind of special. And there was 9 foot of special right back there. The Steinway, awesome piano, and being in charge of the backstage area for the Masaba concerts for a few years there, it was fun to see all the professional musicians who were expecting not a very good piano, and they saw that and they were just astounded. They all said, it's like you're tickling this. Who takes care of it? You guys are so lucky. So I found a song that will feature, and unfortunately, because of the size of that piano, it has to be way back there. But Lene Ranchetti is our pianist for tonight, and so this song is called The Ludlows.
just so those of you who don't know me know that I don't let audiences come for free. So now it's time for you to join us. So let's see, what have we got here? Dustin, could you turn up the lights here so I can, oh wow, look at that. There's enough of you, we can do this. Okay, I need this side to go, hey, go ahead. Oh, please, let's try it a little more than that. Here we go, put some guts in it. Ready, and go. That was good. Now, can you guys do better? Oh, oh yeah, okay, all right. How many times are we gonna have to do it? Once, all right. Ready, go. All right, excellent, excellent. Now, let's try all of you together. Here we go, ready, and. All right, now, for those of you who like your exercise, it will help even more if you go, hey. With 2 arms, it'll be even better. Let's try it. Ready, go. All right, great. Now, I may ask you to do it twice in a row, so let's try 2 in a row. Ready, go. All right, you're hired. You are so hired. There's going to be times, though, where I'm busy directing. Who knows what my hands are going to be doing? We don't know. I don't know. I just wave them around, and I don't think they even follow me. But you never know where you're going to be cued. It could be an elbow. Ready? Go. Oh, try it again. Ready? Go. Okay, that could be my foot. Leg. Try it again. All right, there we go. All right. So our last song is from Orpheus in the Underworld, called Can-Can. I think you've heard it. And when I point to you, I want to see those arms up. And get some energy into it. Here we go. Orpheus in the Underworld.
An amazing ending to this night. Thank you, Diana. I've been very fortunate to have performed with her many times over the years. Let's give one more big, big round of applause to everyone who performed, spoke tonight. Also to the wonderful people who helped organize the event, the the people backstage tonight, the people running sound and light and cameras, making this possible for people not here tonight to see it anywhere in the world. As we wrap up, we will be having a short reception out towards the athletic area. And I do want to remind you, this is just the first night. As I was thinking about speaking tonight, I thought about all the people that I know. Tonight we were celebrating the arts. I know people who went as far as California and New York to pursue careers in art. We have musicians, directors, visual artists, sculptors, painters, so many people with so many talents that came from here. But we also have award-winning teachers. Hibbing High School also produced award-winning athletes, coaches, politicians. There's so many different things about this high school that truly makes it one of the best in the world, and I hope you will continue to join us all next week as we have programs every night at 7 p.m. So thank you again for joining us here in person, and to all of you joining us out there online tonight with the live stream. Thanks again, and have a wonderful evening.